Okay, so what you have here in front of you is a table set up. This is going to be used to calculate my depreciation for a double declining balance. So this is a little bit more steps involved, but if you go through this a few times, you'll get the hang of it. It gets easier as you keep doing it. Just like getting on a bicycle for the first time might be a little bit difficult, but if you keep at it, it gets easier, and eventually you'll be riding the bicycle like a pro. So my years 1, 2, 3, 4. I have my beginning book value. I have a depreciation rate, which, by the way, I calculated that at 50%. So I'm going to do 50% all the way down here, because that is my rate that I will use to depreciate my asset. And then I have the depreciation expense and accumulated depreciation. So this is depreciation expense. What I'm going to expense for that year. My accumulated depreciation is all my past expenses added up as they accumulate year after year after year after year, and then my ending book value. Okay? So my beginning book value, we had done it where we were talking, I kept going on about how you had to do the 237,500 by deducting the book value. Well, double declining is the only one that you don't do that with. And in fact, you start with the total dollar amount of the asset itself, okay, which is going to be 257,500. Okay. Now I need to make sure that when I get down here at the bottom, my ending book value is going to be my salvage value, which is $20,000. I'm just going to put this down here just so I don't forget about it. Okay, it's noted up here. Here's my salvage value, $20,000. But I need to remind myself that when I get to the very end of year 4, I should have an ending book value of $20,000, which is my salvage value. Okay, so I'm just going to put that there just to make sure that I actually meet that mark and I don't go past it, because with double declining and units of production, you have to make sure you don't go past your salvage value. Okay, so 257,500 times 50% is going to be 128,750. So that's my depreciation expense for year 1. My accumulated depreciation, well, I started out with 0, so it's going to be 128,750. And I'm going to subtract this from my book value, 257,500. So this minus this is, golly gee whiz, 128,750. It's only because it's 50% that you're using for your depreciation rate that it comes out that way. So don't read anything into this that's not already there, okay? Now, my beginning book value for year 2 is whatever my ending book value was for year 1. So I'm just simply going to roll this over from year 1 into year 2. So 128,750 is my beginning book value. And then I multiply that by 50%. That gives me 64,375. And I add this to my accumulated depreciation that I currently have at 128,750. So that plus this gives me an accumulated depreciation of 193,125. Okay. I take this 193,125, I subtract that from my total cost of my asset, 257,500. So this minus my accumulated depreciation is my book value at the end of year 2. And that comes out to be 64,375. Whatever my ending balance is for year 2 becomes my beginning balance for year 3, so I just simply roll this over to the next year. So 64,375 times 50% is going to be, and I'm going to round this number because it's not an even number here. So I'm going to round it up, and I'm going to make it 32,188. I add this to my accumulated depreciation total. So 193,125 plus 32,188. That's going to give me 225,313. So now my accumulated depreciation is this much. I'm going to subtract that from my total cost of my asset, 257,500, to get what my ending book value is at the end of year 3. And that's going to be 32,187. Okay. This is my end of year for year 3 book value. I'm going to roll that into the next year, year 4, 32,187. Now, here's where you stop and you consider your situation. If I were to go ahead and take this and multiply this by 50%, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to blunder right through this, because most people will do just exactly that. They just blunder right through like a stampeding elephant going through a village, okay, smashing everything in its path. So let's just for the hell of it, let's just do it and see what happens. So 32,187 times 0.5 is equal to 16094. I'm going to round up. So if I put 16,094, and then if I take that and I add that to my accumulated depreciation, that gives me 241. 407. Okay. Now, does anybody recognize that number? That accumulated depreciation, shouldn't that be the 237,500? This number right here should be my total depreciation expense. Just like I totaled up all these depreciation expenses for straight line and units of production, I should be able to do the same thing for a double declining. But all of these numbers of depreciation expenses for 4 years ought to equal 237,500, but son of a gun, it does not equal that. You know why? Because we depreciated too much. Because folks, let me point this out. I have to have an ending book value of $20,000, which is my salvage value. So if I were to take 257,500, subtract accumulated depreciation 241,407, I certainly would not come up with $20,000. Now, would I? So that's where the problem is. This is wrong, which means that this is wrong, okay? Because I depreciate too much, my accumulated depreciation is too much as well, which means my ending book value will be less than $20,000, which is below the salvage value amount, which I just violated basic tenet of generally accepted accounting principles. So now what I've got to do is I've got to forget about calculating 50% of this beginning book value. I need to look at what I've got left here, and I need to get to this point. So to get from this book value to that book value is simple deduction. I mean, it's subtracting 20,000 from 32,187. So that means my last year's depreciation expense is going to be 12,187. Okay, that's 32,187 minus 20,000. That's going to give me 12,187. Okay, then if I add this to my accumulated depreciation of 225,313, guess what number would come up with? There it is right there. Bing, 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 237,500. It will come out to be the same number. 237,500. Yep. Oh my goodness, I just died and gone to heaven. There we are, right there, 237,500. So when I fill in this table here, I'm just going to wind up putting all my depreciation expense calculations right here. So the first year is going to be 128, 750. The next year, 64,375. The next year, 32,188. And the next year, 12,187. Total them up, and what do you know? You come up with 237,500. Et voila! There you go, folks. There's your table, 237,500. There's a total for all three methods of depreciation. And if you come up with that, then pat yourself on the back and you're done good. Thank you. Have a good day.